الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. Principal tribes, and they were the Jews that lived in Medina. So when the Prophet ﷺ went to Medina, and this hadith is a hadith sahih mentioned in Sunan al-Tirmidhi, the rawi of the hadith is actually, his name is Abdullah ibn Salam, and we'll talk about him here in a second. The rawi of this hadith is Abdullah ibn Salam, and this hadith actually is known as Hadithus Salam, and it's known as Hadithus Salam for a couple of reasons that I'll explain in a second. So Abdullah ibn Salam at the time, to set the context of who he was the chief rabbi. Abdullah ibn Salam was the chief rabbi. He was the chief faqih, the sheikh of all the Jewish tribes of Medina. And he knew that this was the time of the final prophet. In their books, in the books of the Jews, they knew that this was the coming of the last prophet, the last messenger of God, and that's why they lived in Medina. The Jews actually came to live in Medina in anticipation of the final messenger of God to come. And Abdullah ibn Salam, he describes in this hadith that every day we would go out to the outskirts of Medina. You know, they didn't have cell phones like we have today and GPS and all of this. They would simply go to the outskirts because they knew that he was coming with Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, and they would wait for him to show up. And remember also that many of those people didn't know what he looked like. The only people that had actually seen the Prophet ﷺ were the Muhajirin of Mecca, because they're the ones that saw him in Mecca, and some of them are in Medina, some of them are yet to come. But the Ansar, the predominant majority of the Ansar and the Jews and the other pagan Arabs, never saw him, didn't know what he looked like. So he describes in this hadith, he says every day we would go out in anticipation of this man who was claiming to be the Prophet of God. Every day would they go out to the outskirts of Mecca, and everyone had angst to find out, is he really the true Prophet? What does he look like? What does he have to say? And Abdullah ibn Salam had, like everyone else, heard everything negative about this Prophet ﷺ. He'd heard that they called him a liar, they'd called him a magician, they had all these things, spread rumors about ﷺ since the time of the mushriks of Mecca. So he says, Abdullah ibn Salam radiallahu anhu, he says, when I saw his face, I knew that this was not the face of a liar. He didn't introduce himself to the Prophet, he didn't tell him who he was, he's simply describing his feeling as he's seeing the Prophet ﷺ coming for the first time to Medina. He's simply describing his sensation. He's saying, عَلِمْتُ أَنَّهُ لَيْسَ بِكَذَبٍ. I knew that this was not the face of a liar. And subhanAllah, in Islam we believe in this concept of, you know, call it in English intuition or sixth sense. The Arabic word is firasa. Firasa basically means it's a sixth sense, and it's an internal feeling that you have that guides you. You meet someone, you interview someone, and you walk away not feeling right. Yeah, something didn't make me comfortable about this person for whatever reason, right? And subhanAllah, Abdullah ibn Salam had this firasa. Because he says in this hadith, he says, I took the shahada, I accepted Islam as soon as I saw him. As soon as I saw him, I accepted Islam. And so subhanAllah, this is the purity of the heart. This has to do with the purity of the heart. And the lesson number one for us, when we talk to many people that don't know anything about Islam, my brothers and sisters, we ought not to be afraid. Many of them don't know. They don't know any better. Their situation is they're not enemies, they just don't know any better. No one ever came to introduce them to a Muslim. No Muslim ever had them in their house. They don't know any better. All they're hearing is Fox News and whatever else media they're getting on the internet. So he says, I accepted Islam there and then. This is the chief rabbi of Medina, the most knowledgeable person. Then he goes on to say, the Prophet ﷺ entered Medina, and this is the hadith, and he gave his first, call it a khutbah, call it a speech, call it a dars. He's giving this to who? To the entire population of Medina, to the people that came out to see who he was. By the way, not unlike the society that we live in today. Muslims are a minority, and there's many, many other factions. There's, all kinds of different religions and diverse opinions and people that don't believe in anything. Very similar from that perspective. So the Prophet ﷺ comes and he says this hadith, and this is narrated by Abdullah ibn Salam. He says, أيها الناس أفشوا السلام وأطعموا الطعام وصلوا الأرحام وصلوا بالليل والناس نيام تدخلوا الجنة بسلام. So he addresses all the people and he says, أيها الناس, O people, all people. He didn't just address this to the Muslims. The first recorded thing that the Prophet ﷺ said, and you'll see when you break it down, this wallahi has the cure for every society. Any society on the face of the planet, regardless of who's in it. He basically has 4 commandments and 1 outcome. 4 commandments and 1 outcome. He says, Ayyuhan nas, O people, afshu salam, spread salam amongst you, wa at'imu ta'am, and feed each other. Wasilul arham, and connect the families. Wasallu bil-layli wan-nasu niyam, and pray at night while people are asleep. Tadkhulul jannata bisalam. You will enter Jannah peacefully. 4 commandments, 1 outcome. Now we're going to double click because it's not that simple. There's a much, much deeper meaning. The words of the Prophet ﷺ, wallahi, you can weigh them in gold. Every single one of these categories is a category for a much broader meaning. When he says afshu salam, the first one, afshu salam, it's about assalamu alaikum. When we greet each other, we say assalamu alaikum. The broader category is manners and how people treat each other. And why is that important, and why is this what we get? Because the first impression someone has of you is how you greet them, how you give them salam. And the last impression that someone has of you is how you greet them and how you give them salam at the end of the meeting. How you receive them at the beginning and how you receive them at the end. And when we say assalamu alaikum to someone else, we're doing 3 things. We're doing 3 things. Number 1, it's a statement of fact. It's a statement of fact that I wish you no harm. I come to you in peace. The second thing is, it's a dua. It's a dua. It's a sincere dua. I really mean it. I really mean that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you. I wish you all good. I wish you no harm. This is how we greet each other. And then the third thing about this particular type of salam is it's an invocation of the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the other person. Because we believe as Muslims that one of the attributes, one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as-salam, peace, absolute peace. And as Muslims, when we greet each other, we say assalamu alaikum. And by the way, this is the salutation of Adam alayhi salam until the Day of Judgment. Because in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ tells us, when Adam alayhi salam was created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered to go and say assalamu alaikum to the angels. And he went alayhi salam and he said assalamu alaikum to the angels, and the angels responded to Adam alayhi salam and they said wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Adam and he said to him, let this be the salutation of you and your entire progeny until the Day of Judgment. Even today, subhanAllah, the Muslims, alhamdulillah, we should be honored that this is one of the few nations on the planet that still uses assalamu alaikum. The Jews say it, we know many people say shalom. And by the way, the Christians even said it until the Middle Ages in Europe. The Christians in Latin would say pax bubiscum. In Latin, pax bubiscum literally means assalamu alaikum. They stopped doing it now. But even the Christians used to say it until Middle Ages in Europe. So this is the salutation of Adam alayhi salam until the Day of Judgment. It's an honor for this ummah to still have it. When we say it, we mean it. I can't say assalamu alaikum to you in the masjid and then go back home and backbite you, or speak bad about your family, or cheat you in a business transaction. That's not assalamu alaikum. That's not assalamu alaikum. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ was asked, Ayyul Islami afdal, what is the best action in Islam? And he mentions many things, but one of them is the one who says as-salam to those who he knows and those who he doesn't know. We spread salam everywhere. We spread salam everywhere we go. This is the nature of a Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ, one of his attributes was he was known to be a smiley person. He was a smiley person. And in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says that your smile in the face of your brother is a sadaqah. And the sadaqah gets 10 times the reward, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases for whoever they want. Very simple, basic manners to have humans live in a civilized society. So the first one is spreading the peace, spreading salam, which has to do with the broader category of manners. The second one, وَأَطْعِمُوا الطَّعَامِ. وَأَطْعِمُوا الطَّعَامِ. And feed the poor, and feed the poor. Take care of the poor in society. Take care of the poor in society. The broader category for this one is not just the eradication of hunger, my brothers and sisters. The broader category is social justice. The broader category of feeding is social justice. In our society, as Muslims, we believe in social justice. We don't believe in bigotry or hatred or racism. The Prophet ﷺ teaches us that every single human being is equal to any other human being, like the tooth of a comb. In another hadith, he says there is no difference between an Arab and a non-Arab, except for the taqwa, for the iman that they have in their heart. All human beings are created equal. In a third hadith, he says all human beings are equal, and you all came from Adam, and Adam came from dust. There's no place in Islam for bigotry or hatred. Wallahi, when you look at Muslim communities in the US, we should be proud because we enjoy this diversity in many cases, more than at home, wherever at home may be. Many times we enjoy this. We have this benefit here, alhamdulillah. And when non-Muslims come to the masjid, this is one of the things they comment about. This is one of the key things they comment about. I love to speak to people that have never been to a masjid and ask them what was their impression. And they talk about two things: the diversity of people and sometimes the shoes, unfortunately. Right? So this is a time of ta'am. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, one of the very early revelations in Mecca, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا إِنَّا نَخَافُ مِنْ رَبِّنَا يَوْمًا عَبُوسًا قَمْطَرِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they feed the beggars, they feed the orphans, and they feed the prisoners of war, even though they want the food. The question is, in early Mecca, did the Muslims have prisoners of war? No, they didn't. This was very, very early Mecca. So the very first parts of da'wah had the shahada and taking care of the society, taking care of the rest of the community. Those were fundamental aspects of this deen. Salah only came 13 years later. Siyam and zakah came 15 years after Iqra. Hajj came 20 years after Iqra. Not that they're not important, but I'm simply explaining that these are fundamental aspects of our religion that many times we neglect. It'am al-ta'am, feeding the poor and taking care of society. Taking care of society, social justice, standing up for the truth. You know, in the hadith of Bukhari, the third hadith of Bukhari that explains Badr al-Wahy, right? Hadith of Aisha, a very long hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ describes his first interaction with angel Jibreel alayhi salam. And we all know the story. He came to the cave and he said, Iqra. When he runs home to his wife, he's terrified from the experience. He's terrified from what he just went through. And his wife, look at the supporting wife, subhanAllah. The supporting wife that knows the character of the husband. Message here to the sisters, the whole family and the security and stability of the family honestly revolves around you, my sisters. So she says to him, Kalla, wallahi la yukhzika Allahu abada. إنك لتصل الرحم وتحمل الكل وتكسب المعدوم وتخرج الضيف وتعين على نوائب الحق. She says to him, no, there is no way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would ever desert you or put you down. Because you take care of the innocent. You stand up for truth and justice. You're the first to stand up for truth and justice in your society. You take care and you're generous to your guests, and you connect with the family. You connect with the family and you protect them. These were characters of the Prophet ﷺ before he became an official da'i of this deen, before Islam. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala thumma amma ba'd. Brothers, can you just move forward? There's lots of gaps in the lines, lots of brothers in the back. Let's make space for them, especially in this area, so they don't have to walk all the way to the end. Lot of gaps. Let's fill up the gaps, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمِ وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. Very early revelation in Mecca, back to the point of feeding and taking care of society and feeding the poor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, did you see the one that disobeys or disbelieves in judgment, disbelieves in religion? They're the ones that push away the orphan. They are the ones that push away the beggar. They have no interest. This was part of their society. And by the way, many people in our society are like this as well, where the hearts have become so hardened that they don't care anymore. They don't care anymore. They see the orphan, they see hunger knows no religion. It doesn't matter whether it's a Hindu child, a Jew or a Christian, or an adult, female or male. It doesn't matter. Hunger knows no religion. So the Prophet ﷺ, that's his second commandment, أطعموا الطعام. The third one, he says, وصلوا الأرحام. وصلوا الأرحام. And connect with the family. Connect with the family. That means connection and respect to the parents, connection and respect to the wife, connection and respect to the husband, to the extended family and the extended community. There's no place in Islam for domestic violence. No place in Islam, my brothers and sisters, for domestic violence. One of the sicknesses of today's society. No place in Islam for it, from either party. The Prophet ﷺ in another hadith, he says, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِي. He says, the best amongst you is the best to their family, and I am the best to my family. The best amongst you is the best to the family. Think about that. This is what the Prophet ﷺ teaches us. The importance of the family and connection with the family, being kind to the children. In another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, a man went to him and said, I have so many children, I never kissed a single one of them. He was surprised when he saw the Muslim kissing the children. And he said, what can I do for a man where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has killed his heart? Your heart is dead if you don't pick up your kids. This is the family. And then the fourth commandment, وَصَلُّوا بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّاسُ نِيَامٌ. The fourth commandment is about praying at night while people are asleep. Most of the ulama would say that refers to the prayer of tahajjud. The prayer of tahajjud, prayer at night. The interesting thing to call out is that in this hadith, the best of the prayer is the hidden one, is the hidden prayer. The hidden prayer. The other thing to call out is the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, ifsha' salam, he mentioned about spreading the peace, spreading the salutation of salam, feeding the poor, taking care of the family before the ritual prayer. Something that modern day Muslims have completely flipped upside down. Alhamdulillah, today we come to the masjid, we pray, and this is important, and we have to do it. No question about it. The ritual aspect of Islam is critical and is very, very important. But the other aspects of Islam that the Prophet ﷺ calls out, whether it's the aspect of social justice or manners or family, we've neglected in many cases. We don't think about them as part of our religion. Unfortunately, my brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, we're making progress, but throughout the West, this is just a call out about this society or some other society, throughout the West, Muslims in the West in general have not really succeeded at the other aspects of their deen. They've not really succeeded at showing the beauty of Islam outside of the bubble that they live in, outside of their immediate, close-knit, friends and family. It hurts me sometimes. I get these emails, wallahi, I get these emails sometimes from people at this masjid where they say, I invited a person that's, a non-Muslim to come to the masjid, and they came and they were very badly received. Now, there's a lot to be said. If you invite someone to the masjid, you have to be here. But there's also an expectation that if one of us sees someone coming to the masjid that may be lost, that may not be Muslim or whatever, we should welcome them and make them feel at home. This is like having a hospital. The way I think about the masjid is, this is the hospital. Sick people want to come and attend, and we reject the sick people. Sick people come for a cure, and we reject the sick people. Well, wallahi, it's very disappointing at times. And the final thing, so 4 things the Prophet ﷺ ordered. He said, ifsha' salam, spreading the peace, connecting with the family, feeding the poor, praying at night. And then the Prophet ﷺ says, تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ بِأَمَانٍ. You will enter Jannah peacefully. You will enter Jannah peacefully. On the Day of Judgment, as Muslims, we believe in a Day of Judgment. One of our core beliefs is in a Day of Judgment, where our a'mal, our actions are weighed. The weight of the Day of Judgment is not like the ones of dunya, because it weighs truth. The weight is about truth. It's not about wealth. It's not about ownership. It's about a'mal. It's a very different type of scale. And after that weight process begins, there's a judgment. And we end up either in Jannah or in hell. So the Prophet ﷺ says, when you do these things, you enter Jannah peacefully. You enter Jannah without having to worry about the other calamities of the Day of Judgment. Because there will be disasters, there'll be things happening on the Day of Judgment that we don't want to be in, we don't want to participate in, we don't even want to see. The Prophet ﷺ reassures us. He says, if you do these things, you get to go to Jannah without having to worry about these other things. And when we go into Jannah, the first salutation that we have is what? Salamun alaykum tibtum. The first salutation of the people of Jannah is, relax, you're in it. There's nothing else to worry about. All that stuff you've passed in dunya, the cycle of the Day of Judgment, all the things that you've seen, alhamdulillah, you've passed through it. You've passed the test. This is the expectation and the promise of the Prophet ﷺ. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all from those that enter into Jannah bisalam, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad, kama sallayta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim fil alameen, innaka hamidun majid. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. اللهم هون علينا في سكرات الموت. اللهم هون علينا في سكرات الموت. اللهم ثبتنا وقت السؤال في القبر. اللهم أنر لنا في قبورنا. اللهم افتح إلينا بابا إلى الجنة. اللهم أمنا يوم الفزع الأكبر. اللهم ثقل موازيننا يوم القيامة. اللهم شفع نبينا فينا. اللهم مررنا من على الصراط كالبرق الخاطف. اللهم أدخلنا الجنة بدون سابقة عذاب. اللهم نسألك الدرجات العلى من الجنة. اللهم متعنا بالنظر إلى وجهك الكريم. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما إنها ساءت مستقرا ومقاما. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معاصيك ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا. ومتعنا اللهم بأسماعنا وبأبصارنا أبدا ما أحييتنا واجعله الوارث منا واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا وانصرنا على من عادانا ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا إلى النار مصيرنا واجعل الجنة هي دارنا. اللهم اغفر لنا ولآبائنا وأمهاتنا وارحمهما كما ربيانا صغارا. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين. اللهم يا رب كن مع أهل حلب يا رب العالمين. اللهم احمهم بحمايتك يا أرحم الراحمين واكلأهم برعايتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم احفظهم بحفظك واكلأهم برعايتك وانظر إليهم بعينك التي لا تنام. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Brothers, I have a note from a brother whose sister is in the ICU. Please make dua for the sister, inshallah.